Hello and welcome to Zion Dew. My name is Francis Wamonje, and I'll be sharing this week's messages. We continue to extract lessons from the remarkable life of Joseph, who was the 11th child of Jacob. And today's message is titled, We All Come Prepackaged with Gifts. In the previous teaching, we talked a bit about the complicated history and family situation of Joseph. And while we are not told very much about the kind of giftings that his other brothers had, and undoubtedly they did have those, we are introduced to the gifts of Joseph, which were remarkable. Now, why this message is important is to stress that despite your circumstances, God has a plan for everyone. God has put gifts into everyone which must find expression. And when those gifts are leveraged and they're used properly, they can lead to great good. So we are introduced to Joseph's gift in a very interesting manner. He has got dreams. And he shares this dream. In the first dream, he shares that they were in the farm with his brothers, and they were harvesting wheat, and all the sheaves belonging to these brothers bowed to his. And his brothers were quite offended by this gift because they saw what it implied. It was implying that Joseph would essentially be their boss. Now, as I mentioned, this was already a favorite child, treated as a firstborn by his father, and this had undoubtedly caused offense. In the second dream, he sees a similar thing with a similar interpretation, but this time there's the addition of the sun and the moon, implying that even his parents would bow down to him. So while this caused great offense, and even a bit of a rebuke from his father nonetheless contemplated about this dream and wondered what they meant. Now remember that Jacob is a man who had encountered God before, and so he knew that God is real, and probably this gift was in action. But Joseph's gift was immature at that point in time. He could only speak about what he had seen in his dream. He couldn't advance it beyond that. And this level of resentment that this dream raised, then you can say was part of the accumulation of what I believe are many other events that may be going on around his life, and eventually his brothers decide to get rid of him. Initially, as I taught, by killing him, and then they seem to get cold feet over it, and they decide to sell him off. And so he's sold off into Egypt. And the next time we encounter this gift of Joseph again, he's in prison. He has since been in Potiphar's house where he has enjoyed great success. And then he gets set up and thrown into jail. But while in there, he again gets into a situation whereby two people are sharing a dream. Now, what is remarkable this time is what Joseph tells the cupbearer who was in prison and the baker. He tells them that it's God's business to interpret dreams. And so these two gentlemen then share their dream with Joseph. And the first person to share the dream was the cupbearer. And Joseph tells him, you know what? You're going to be restored to your position after 3 days. After 3 days, you're going to go back and work for Pharaoh. And he tells him, I'm here out of no fault of my own. When you go before Pharaoh, plead my case to Pharaoh. I was sold off my brothers, I am a Hebrew, and I'm in jail for a crime which I did not commit. But the Bible also records that when the cupbearer was restored to his position 3 days later, he forgot about it. And 2 years gap before there was a chance encounter where he could remember Joseph. And I'll get to that in a bit. The second person who spoke about his dream to Joseph was the baker. And his outcome was more morbid. In fact, Joseph told him, in 3 days, you'll be taken from here and you'll be executed. And indeed, during the party that Pharaoh held, he restored the cupbearer, but for the baker, he had him impaled upon a stick. So both of these dreams came to pass. And here we can see an advancement in the gifting of Joseph. Remember that initially he could only speak of a dream. I saw this. I saw the sun and moon and stars and they bowed down before me. I saw sheaves of wheat and they bowed before mine. But his gift has since grown, and now he's able to speak of the interpretation of the dream. However, this gifting had not grown to a point whereby it could really advance him to where God wanted him to be. I would like to believe that Joseph continually applied himself to this gift. You can clearly see from his speech, his reverence for God, his acknowledgement that it is God who is able to give the interpretation of these dreams. And so Joseph then exercises his dream by speaking, to be a mouthpiece, to be able to give people direction concerning what their dreams mean. However, soon enough, space of 2 years, we see another bigger advancement in the gifting of Joseph. And this is one of the most widely read stories in the Bible about Pharaoh's dream. So Pharaoh dreams a dream of consequence, and a dream which keeps him awake in the morning, and by morning he's summoned his magicians and all the people who he thought were wise, and he shares his dream. He talks about having the first dream about cows, fat cows, and then very scrawny cows, and the scrawny cows eating the fat cows, but then remaining scrawny. And he says that he's never seen such ugly cows. Then he sleeps again, and then this time he dreams about grain and wheat. And the wheat which is thin consumes the one which is healthy, but it doesn't seem to get any better. So somewhere within the discerning spirit of Pharaoh, he realizes we need to get an answer to this. And the cupbearer at that point remembers, oh, there was a young man called Joseph. And he shares with Pharaoh that, in prison, there could be a solution to your dream interpretation. And so Joseph is brought before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh tells him his dream. He says, I've been told that you are the one, you've got the ability to interpret dreams. And again, you see that in Joseph's answer, he defers to God. He's keenly aware that the gift he carries is a gift from God. He says, Pharaoh, God will give you the answer that gives you peace. It's not for man to interpret dreams, it's for God. So Joseph stands there as a mouthpiece. But this time, the outcome is different. Not only does Joseph interpret the dream of Pharaoh by telling him that these dreams are one and the same, and they point towards 7 years of prosperity, and then 7 years of where there'll be lack, but he goes further to propose solutions, things that Pharaoh can do to be able to mitigate against this impending disaster down the line. And you can see the gifting of Joseph now has grown to a point whereby he's not only talking about the gifts, the dreams which he has had, he's gone beyond just interpreting people's dreams. He's now on a different level where he can actually give people actionable solutions to the problem. And he shares this solution in very few sentences to Pharaoh. And the Bible records that not only Pharaoh, but the whole court of the Pharaoh agreed with the solution that Joseph had given to Pharaoh. And so then Pharaoh decides, I will elevate this man because in him is the Spirit of God. He's filled with godly wisdom. And that's how Joseph comes now to prominence. And the rest, as we say, is history. So, brothers and sisters, all of us have got a gift. And these gifts can take time to grow. And they can grow in different circumstances. Some of the circumstances can be happy circumstances. When Joseph was sharing the dream initially, he was a happy man or a happy boy. In the second instance, he's barely surviving. He's in prison. He's got the weight of injustice, but the gift is still growing. And in the third circumstances, this gift that God put in Joseph makes room for him. The gift makes room for him. And that gift which God put in you, that which you came prepackaged with, will make room for you. So as I close this message, what I would urge you is to pray for your gift and to be grateful for your gift. That God may work on it, may improve it, to a point whereby when you express this God-given gift, it will make room for you as it made room for Joseph. God bless you all. Thank you.